you're quoted as saying you believe there was extreme bias in favor of Hillary Clinton. By that, do you believe that people within the FBI deliberately and for political reasons cleared her in the email case, notwithstanding incriminating evidence she broke the law?
Well, I believe there were people at the highest levels of our government in coordination. I believe there was an FBI piece. I believe there was a Department of Justice piece. Certainly the tarmac meeting that Loretta Lynch had with James Comey highlights the extent to which you had high-level coordination on the Hillary Clinton investigation, and that should not occur. The good news we have now is that this congressional oversight is actually creating the transparency and creating some change. Andrew McCabe just announced his retirement. Bruce Orr demoted. Peter Strzok demoted and reassigned. And so the more the American people learn about the pro-Hillary bias in the investigation of the Clinton Foundation and her email service and the anti-Trump bias that has migrated from this very team over to the Mueller investigation, the more we start to see change and the more the truth comes out.
What about the so-called exoneration statement that was originally composed by James Comey, then FBI director? And if you read the original version, he finds that Hillary Clinton broke the law. Somebody, and it's believed to be Peter Strzok and others, changed the language to absolve her. Who did that? And isn't that obstruction of justice if they did it for a political reason?
Well, you're absolutely right that the elements of obstruction of justice would be met if you had senior officials in our government changing this statement prepared by James Comey so that Hillary Clinton would not face criminal culpability. That is the definition of obstruction of justice. There's a team of people that appear to have been involved in the drafting of this exoneration statement. James Comey was involved. There were drafts sent around to other people, Peter Strzok and his boss, and we'll really get to the bottom of who had their hand in the cookie jar as Hillary Clinton was held to a different standard than all other Americans. What is no longer in dispute is that Hillary Clinton got special treatment. She got that special treatment because she was a candidate for president, and people at the highest levels of our government were helping her.
Do you have any evidence that would demonstrate that?
Well, the evidence is the exoneration statement. We also are in the process of taking confidential witness statements. Last week, we had Andrew McCabe before the Judiciary Committee. I can't go into the specific questions asked and answers provided because it was a confidential setting, but I don't think it's a coincidence that after giving that sworn testimony, Andrew McCabe very quickly decided to end his career at the FBI and retire. There were inconsistencies with other statements that others have made, and we look forward to getting to the bottom of that and showing the evidence. There's also the McCabe emails that are concrete evidence that there was special treatment.
All right, I want to ask you about that. Is there an email from Andrew McCabe which shows he's saying that Hillary Clinton will get special treatment?
There is. There are emails from Andrew McCabe to the other people at the Washington field office. Now, why is that important? Because normally the Washington field office would actually handle this case. But McCabe sends out an email saying, hands off. The normal process won't be followed. We're instead getting a small group of people together at headquarters to make these decisions. And that's a corrupting process. When you don't have the normal people who would normally engage in the fact pattern allowed to be able to do that, then you've got a departure from the normal procedures, and it just reeks to high heaven of improper influence because of her candidacy for the presidency.
And did they do that to clear her path to the presidency? Because if she had been indicted under the original Comey statement, she wouldn't have been president, and it turned out she wasn't president, but it cleared the path for her. Was that the reason?
Well, I think we've still got more fact gathering to do on that question. But what is without question is that it was her status as a candidate for president of the United States that put her on a different track of justice than would apply to any other American. That's what we've got to stop. No FBI director going forward should have the power to treat one person differently as a consequence of their candidacy for public office, and particularly the presidency. And then again, I mean, what you've been pointing out night after night is that this very bias that favored Hillary Clinton then migrated over to the Mueller investigation, and you see some of the very same people involved in clearing Hillary Clinton now persecuting the president with no evidence of collusion, and they're clouding the great work that we're doing.
Is it clear to you that people within the FBI, maybe the Department of Justice, launched in July of 2016 an investigation of Donald Trump into collusion with no evidence of collusion. Instead, they relied on a phony dossier to do it. And was that an effort by them to sort of an insurance policy in case Hillary didn't win, will frame Donald Trump for wrongdoing which doesn't exist?
Well, that is the $64,000 question. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you had real connections, real bribes being paid to the Clinton Foundation to potentially facilitate the Uranium One deal. That is real collusion. You've got the DNC paying a company to pay Russians to tell lies about the president. That's real collusion.
But she
and
says I didn't have anything to
do
do with the approval of Uranium One. Do you believe her?
Well, absolutely not. The Secretary of State has a key role in that process. The FBI director, who was Bob Mueller, has a key role in that process. As a matter of fact, the very last report from the Congressional Research Service that went through this process highlighted circumstances where people at the FBI and at the Department of State would typically raise concerns about this very type of transaction, and that didn't occur here. That raises a lot of questions, and it's just not a rare coincidence that at the very same time this deal was being approved, you had the Clinton Foundation taking hundreds of millions of dollars from people who had direct contact with the Kremlin. And so, what we've really got to find out is whether this whole fake, phony narrative about the president in Russia was really created to distract the American people and distract Congress from the very real connection that you had with the DNC and the Clinton campaign in Russia.
I'm out of time, but you have absolutely no confidence in the fairness and objectivity of Robert Mueller and his team?
Oh, look, the American people don't have confidence. That's the Harvard poll that shows 54% of Americans believe there's a conflict of interest. It's time for the Attorney General to step up, end this investigation, and call it the sham that it is.
And appoint a second special counsel to investigate Comey, Clinton, Lynch, McCabe, and the whole lot of them, right?
Of course, that's absolutely what has to happen, because if it doesn't, this could happen again in the future with another presidential candidate, with another political figure. They could get treatment that wouldn't be afforded any other American if we do not have a second special counsel and then harden our processes and our oversight. What this entire experience has proven is that transparency is the great antidote to the lies that have been told about the Clinton administration, that have been told about the Obama administration, and that now are being told about the Trump administration.